Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon Made the second of a best of 3 with myself and Grape Jellyman against Lateralus and Kuma in the Adopt a Noob 2v2 tournament held on the Blitzwar channel, and I just want to talk briefly about Grape Jellyman's opener. He does have 2 AH-64 escorts, some Martyr 2s, and some AMX FL-12s headed over into Alpha in what's supposed to be a very concise, dedicated counter to the Alpha side rush. So basically what happens, from what I've been told, is the escorts sit at low hover on each of these defense markers, and anything that pops up above this ridge gets rocket potted to hell and back. So, yeah, no, that's supposed to be a really cheap answer for that, because the rocket pods will bust through armor, they'll kill infantry, you'll get kills at value, and because of the low hover, your opponent won't be able to shoot back in with anti-air against the AH-64, so really just an evil strategy there for taking those out. And then anything that survives gets shot with a high rate of fire FL-12s along with the Martyr 2s, and the infantry that the Martyr 2s are carrying can fend off anything else that survives. So, my opener is going to be more into Golf and Foxtrot, and our game plan here basically was expecting Kuma to go into Bravo Alpha while Lateralis is headed over into Fox and Golf. And yes, this does mean that I'm just intentionally taking on Lateralis, and that's not something that I'm doing lightly or with any expectation of success without help. It's more of just, we had hoped to fight enough of a delaying action there to allow Grape Jellyman to wrap up most of Golf and then come over to help. So that was really the thing, was, have our own defense on this side with partial points from Grape Jellyman, and then have him get some success in Golf while I take long enough dying to extend the game and then push into a good position. So, right off the bat, Krotal firing in on a Hera 2 from Kuma, and we do also see, just briefly, a second blip from Kuma on the left, so it does look like they have split up on the sides of the map that we expected, and there is a helicopter headed over as well. Now, I just have a single VAB T-2013 going up to that side, and the intention is unload and then push through, and then a bit of an unfortunate trade, my Panther for an Osa. It's about 5 points down, but I really liked having that Panther there because early pushes into Foxtrot have, apologies for the truck in the background, by the way, a bit of a noisy evening today, but my hope was to get some good value out of it, screening out infantry and cheap stuff there, and it definitely isn't what happened. In the meantime, KA-29TB is going to be just killing my Commandos Parrot in the open, so I do lose my recon on that side, and basically all of the right side of the field with that. So, meanwhile, we have forces from Kuma, M84A, some OATs, some BVP M80As, just really wonderful infantry fighting vehicles there, but the Fuchs Milan and a Parmelan shooting back in, and that's going to be a bit of a problem if the M84AN doesn't back up. Meanwhile, Thermomig, and this really worried me, because I was afraid that he was going to drop it right on top of my smoke. Because usually what you do, you smoke, you push up into the smoke, then you pop out of the smoke, and so this is kind of like telling your opponent where you are, or at least where you expect to be, and instead the Thermomig right next to my Legion 90 seemed like a bit of a blessing in disguise, because, yeah, I mean, it made them unhappy, but it really only damaged 1 or 2, and that's really going to be fine. In the meantime, we get a firing concave here on Lateralis, mostly just light stuff, and it turns out that's not entirely true. So we do take out some motorized forces, some mechanized forces, but these are Screjets, which means that his tanks can and will catch up to the Screjets by this point in time, and we get hammered by them. 2 T-72 BUs shooting in at my Commandos Para, my AMX-13 BTTs. Everything that I don't want to get shot here is getting shot pretty quickly. And my own 2 A5s, because of that Thermomig and my own caution, are out of position, so I have to move up here. But an Mi-24 VP from Lateralis is trying to make sure that if I do engage his super heavies, he'll be able to get side shots with the Kokon M. So this is a very, very scary situation here. And my 2 A5s, late to the party, are now going to be sort of without the support and the screening elements that you really want to have in front of your super heavies, while Lateralis still does have quite a bit of his own. So I go up, we shoot at, I think it was a flipping Factoria here, yeah, Factoria, and because I've now shot, the T-72BUs engage, and I'm slow on the draw, he's not. So 1 shot, 2 shots going in there, and because of the vision and the visibility where one of the 2 A5s was not visible, both of his shells go into the same Leopard 2 A5, even though I was grouped up, and I lose a super heavy right off the bat. So that's a good engagement for Lateralis, but it is hopefully and thankfully for our team, sort of being balanced out here by Grape Jellyman's success in the Square Forest. His Natra are not really that happy, but Core Mariners moving in, AMX-13 FL-12 moving in, and the quick proximity of these 2 Thermomigs kind of tells me I think that's, that Kuma might have bought 2, which does mean more points in the air and fewer on the ground. This, by the way, I think is a command vehicle. Yeah, that's a command vehicle. A bit of an odd placement for that. Usually if it's a Jeep, you'd be hanging out back in the woods or just sort of in one of the towns farther away, but it's easy to get it caught up in your opener and not quite realize where it's going until you really just want to cap the zone. And I was kind of surprised we could even see it from that far away, honestly. It was definitely a bit of a surprise here. So we do have Grape Jellyman's 2A5 moving up, and with that we still have 2 against Lateralus' 2 BUs, and since one of them is damaged, it does look like he's pulling back here, but we do still have to be careful about this engagement, at least we did, until Grape Jellyman's 2A5 gets 1 kill, and now we can chase, because there's 2 of us, 1 of him, and if we can get shots on. But this section of trees is always a little bit tricky for line of sight. It's kind of a little bit hard to tell when you will and won't have line of sight through. I'm sure somebody can explain it better than I can, but I've always found it to just be a little bit inconsistent. So we are shooting in at VDV-90. The Gepard A1 did also kill that attack helicopter over on the right, and is also screening out more helicopters on that side, while Lateralus does, unfortunately for us, retreat that BU back and out of the way. So if we take a look at the battlefield, there hasn't really been much going on the right-hand side, sorry, on the left-hand side. The AH-64 escort's not really doing much, and I mean, that's not to say that they're not well used here, because if we didn't have defenses and something had pushed up, that would have been catastrophic, but they are just sort of sitting pretty and prepped and waiting for any sort of pressure into Alpha. But it looks like the Red 4 game plan is really to just punch through in Fox and Golf, and that has been at least partially fended off decently well. So we have more reservists, and more reservists coming up here, AMX-13 VTTs. I'm trying to make up for my earlier mistake not having enough screening elements for the 2A5 as we get that main gun online here, trying to make use of it and not just have that expensive super heavy sitting there not doing anything, even if it is just only 5-point incremental value. But this was kind of an unpleasant surprise. So these are BRDM 3s. 40 points they have, oh, what are they called? They're not Kokons. I don't remember the name of the ATGMs, but they're 2,800 meter range ATGMs, 50% accuracy, 21 AP. It's not enough to kill the 2A5, but they can scratch his paint, and they can definitely peel back my IFVs and APCs and other sort of supporting elements on this side of the board with successive hits. I mean, 2 of them, 50% accuracy, you expect... Actually, let's take a look. Ah, the Archon. Right. Yeah, I mean, just... It's an interesting unit. At 40 points, you do have to get some good kills to get the value back, but the longer he sits back there and just uses the Archons and the 2A70, which, keep in mind, 2,450 meter range outranges a tank and has 3 HE power to use against infantry, which will mulch my reservists, and you can see he's peeling apart a couple of things that I had out of the woods there, and really just, I mean, I was unhappy with that. I was trying to figure out how I even get shots back in on him, because I didn't want to move up my tank enough to take focus fire from those ATGMs, even if it meant that I could get kills until after he's moved up. Now, Spetsnaz grew on the right, and we're paying for losing this side of the field. You can see some Natra, some other recon elements here, trying to stop anything that might be pushing around the side. I might have overinvested with that with the AMX-1390s, but I figured, I mean, he's a lieutenant colonel. If he senses blood in the water, he's going to just use that to his advantage. And there definitely was weakness around here. Instead, all he does is by winning that engagement, he forces out such a big investment for me on this side that isn't going up to fighting in Foxtrot. Now, unfortunately for me, my Commandos Para that were intended to go up here and deal with the Spetsnaz crew are taken out because this is a BTR-90 in the back there, and those frag launcher rounds will just demolish my Commandos Para. So a couple of bad engagements in a row. I mean, we were feeling pretty okay, and then those definitely could have gone much better than they did, and PH2 Tiger unfortunately is going to be losing vision before he's able to get that missile online and into the Red 4 position. So we have a couple of choices here. We can keep fighting in Foxtrot, we could maybe try to shoot the gap between Golf and Charlie, but this is, although very short, often well defended, and so the second you step out here, you're going to get shot from this angle, and from that angle. It's very hard to avoid a firing concave, and these attack markers are actually for Cesar, which I've just now called out into this match. Now, the intention wasn't necessarily to shoot at the command vehicle in Charlie, because I think they moved it, we didn't really know where it was, but just to get some longer range supporting fire in to dissuade pushes, to take out supporting elements like anti-air that we could maybe hopefully spot, and my 2A5 now is able to get some shots online against that BMP-3. We actually take one of them out, and the second one gets taken out by an ATGM from something, I think actually the Tiger. Yeah, look at that. Wonderful Tiger positioning here. It's actually able to screen out the T-72 BU as well. 3 points of damage is enough to make him potentially lose a duel with the 2A5. And double T-64 BM here from Lateralus. Now, this is not my favorite tank. I think 100 points, 16 frontal armor can be a little underwhelming, but he has a really good gun for it. So 18 AP power, 4 HE power, full range, and of course the Cobra ATGMs are maybe not the most reliable thing, but again, nothing to scoff at. So we have another Sava from Kuma, and he's trying to kill the Tiger, actually does kill the Tiger with that Sava, which was actually pretty annoying, but A64TD trying to get the kill there and nearly taken out, but we get the 2A5 up. So dangerous positioning on the Sava, but he did definitely pay for himself about 2 times over, if not more, against that Recon Tiger, and plus the damage on the AX-64TD, this is panicked now. The Hellfires are going to be less accurate, and we need to go back to resupply it. So really just, I mean, nice sacrificial Sava there in that engagement. I think it is definitely worthwhile to do every single time. Although, I don't know, only if you can guarantee the kill, but it worked, right? And sometimes justification for questionable decisions is in their success. So 2A5 of mine moving up to A5 from Grape Jelly, pulling back just a little bit here as my reservists are moving in, and we're just trying to peel away some of their supporting elements before we go in and shoot. T64 BMs, by the way, one of them moved back and into safety as it did take a couple of shots. T72 BU on this side, still using some of those severe ATGMs on my AMX13 VTTs, and I really don't mind that too terribly. This is also another overinvestment, but I want those Spetsnaz crew gone, and 1390s backed up by reservists to draw fire should be able to do that relatively well. So 2A5, and we are fending back this push once more, although, yeah, less solid of a position than we had maybe a couple minutes previously. So more reinforcements are necessary. We're getting some reservists back up and in, and another 2A1, just because I'm trying to answer his T64 BMs. Now, the BM, 16 frontal armor, 18 AP, like we said earlier. The 2A1, also 16 frontal armor, and yeah, it's 100 points, but this is why I don't particularly love the 2A1. It dies so easily, right? Like, it gets outclassed so easily by super heavies because of that 16 frontal armor. And you can often get heavier armor than that for cheaper. I mean, Israel can do it, but so can USA, I think. M1 Abrams, 65 points, I think is 16 frontal armor. Now, 2A5 engaging the BU, we get the first shot, and that is going to cause him to retreat, so Lateralus pulling that tank back, hopefully into the smoke for him, but we do get the second shot, and that's the second super heavy kill on this side of the map this game, and that really does give such a huge advantage, because we still have two. All we've seen from them to replace them are BMs, which cannot go toe-to-toe with each one individually, let alone the presence of double 2A5 in that section, and we are just pulling back, resupplying now in the 2A1, going up a bit more confident now that we've taken away the threat that can kill him, and hopefully we can still get a couple of shots in, killing the BVP M80As. I mean, 15 points apiece, yeah, but frankly those BVPs fight like they're better than that. ATGMs, really good, autocannons, and this was a bit of a mistake, so my Gepard A1, expecting the Thermomig, does have his gun on, and just now turned off. Lucky, better than good, the SU-24 missing 2 shots there, and definitely just one of those better lucky than good moments of accidental success. Meanwhile, we have taken a bit of a beating here. We've cleared out the Spetsnaz GRU, but definitely not at cost. So Lateralus' position on the side is still there, still sort of unshaken, and my Commando's Para just trying to push up into this section of woods to get better scouting on the open ground here. I mean, it was a bit risky. These guys are not the cheapest, 20 points, and I really just wanted them in this section of woods, because if they can get there, they can hide, but they have to get there first, and they are going to maybe draw some fire. K29TB, M84AN, direct fire, and that, I think, was that 4HE? Yeah. M84AN proving yet again why it's one of the most busted units in the entire game. But we do get into the woods. Unfortunately, the Przminski here are not quite able to spot me, so long as I'm not shooting. I think if I was shooting, then maybe. But you can see I've turned off my tertiary. I don't want to engage at all. K29TB on the left-hand side, and Gepard A2 from Grape Jellyman is going to try to respond to that, because he really is just pounding into our infantry and supporting units, but that's a little risky. Double T64 BM here from Lateralus, moving up, and the smoke. So the intention here is use the smoke to block the line of sight against the tanks, pop out of it for just a second, get that kill, and get back in, and unfortunately it's just not quickly enough. So down goes the Gepard. We spot some books. They are going to be drawing fire from the Crotals, and meanwhile one of the heavy tanks taken out by the 2A5, and the AH-64TD here just, I don't know, this has got to be hard. So if you're in the Red Force shoes at this point, you've lost both your super heavies, and the response is just a firing concave one after the other, and that has to be a little bit demoralizing. So you can see about a minute left in this game as we do get a surrender from Lateralus and Kuma, but I think it was a really hard-fought fight, and a couple of those tank engagements could have gone very differently very quickly and just thrown everything on its head, particularly the last kill with the 2A5 against the second BU, where if I had gotten the second shot there, my 2A5 would be dead. And it really is just that much of a swing, right? It's 170 points each way, depending on who gets the better engagement in that second. And, well, I just happened to get it this time around. So Panther going up, I was hoping to clear out the Tor, actually, but that gets taken out by AH-64TD. And then in the closing seconds of this match, we are able to hold this position decently well. Bit of a funny thing, by the way. AH-64TD, just watch this guy. Yeah, he's getting some nice Hellfires downrange, but there's a BTR-90 right there. And let's just take a look in, I think it was about now. Yep, there it is. Autocannon from the BTR-90. See, the AH-64TD lands, which makes it a ground target, so he's using his longer range, and right in the closing seconds of the game, the TD does get killed by BTR-90, so probably the most worth it BTR-90 ever. But that is going to be GG. So many thanks to Grape Jellyman for the game and for helping me learn how to play better in that Adopt a Noob tournament. And then also hats off to our opponents Lateralus and Kuma for a scrappy fight. So units that did well, the 2A5, the one that survived anyway of mine, because the first one did get sort of taken out relatively early, did get some very nice kills, and actually I think paid for himself and the other 2A5s. Got a little lucky there with the return on investment, but the BU pays for him. T64BM and things like the BMP3 do then pay for the other 2A5. Gepard A1 did alright, so that's a 90-point helicopter plus another Mi-8 MTV. And then no real other highlight units. The Cesar really wasn't around long enough to get true return on investment there, but you can see we killed a Conqueror's team, which often can have a nice effect taking out your opponent's screening forces. And that's going to be all we've got for you guys today, so thank you very much for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.